Just when it was looking like a good time to relax, the Brooklyn Nets decided it was tryout night. It's true what they say, basketball never sleeps. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. If you have not already subscribed, go ahead and do that below. Today, we're discussing the Brooklyn Nets' recent trio of debuts. Roberson, Nicolas Claxton, and Iman Shumpert, all three of which occurred against the Sacramento Kings on Tuesday. Before I get into anything, let me just say this. It's just so great to see all three of these guys on the court again. Nicolas Claxton, Brooklyn's second-round pick last year, is a big man with a ton of promise. Perhaps the Nets' most promising prospect since, I don't know, Derek Favors? But regardless, he's been out with a variety of issues and hasn't played basketball since last February. As for Roberson, he's missed a ton of time over the last 2 to 3 years due to a variety of lower body issues. And then Iman Shumpert, he was on the Nets roster last year, but was unfortunately cut to make space for Wilson Chandler once he made his return from a 25-game suspension. So for all three of these guys, this was their first bit of NBA basketball in quite a while. So let's get into it. As mentioned, there is just so much to get excited about when discussing Nicolas Claxton, a guy who, in my summation, could play real-deal playoff minutes if, of course, he gets acclimated to playing in this Brooklyn Nets rotation. When discussing his upside in this debut as a whole, the first thing you have to touch on is his defense, especially as a switching big man. In his rookie season, Nicolas Claxton showcased distinguishable signs of defensive versatility. In many ways, this makes him the perfect center for Steve Nash's switching defense, which primarily focuses on keeping the ball up top and avoiding dribble penetration at all costs. Notice how Clax seamlessly switches on Richaun Holmes' pin down screen, denying the pass to Buddy Hield, who cuts up to that left slot. Sacramento counters with a Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox pick and roll. But because of Claxton's comfortability with guarding smaller players, Brooklyn is able to simply switch the action, eventually leading to the Kings' turnover. For those of you keeping track, yes, Nicolas Claxton guarded both members of Sacramento's backcourt. Here's Clax again in his first minute of the game, blanketing Buddy Hield as he comes off Richaun Holmes' pin down screen, which by the way is pretty uncommon for any of Brooklyn's centers to switch an off-ball screen. Jared Allen switched some, but those were mostly on-ball picks. Clax then shuffles his feet masterfully so Hield can't get into that mid-range pull-up he loves so much. The thing I love most about Claxton is how good he is at staying in his stance. He doesn't get sent upright by ball fakes or crossovers, and the best way to describe him when guarding the perimeter is cool, calm, and collected. And just having a guy like this who can guard a legit 1 through 5 and switch on to ball handlers on dribble handoffs is just such a luxury for Brooklyn's defense, which aspires to be switchable at every single position. By the way, the key to this possession is Claxton's nail help after Halliburton makes the pass to Corey Joseph. The nail, of course, being the middle of the free throw line where help defense is usually wanted from players playing up top. And with Claxton positioning himself at the nail, it makes it impossible for Corey Joseph to drive, and he's forced to kick back to Tyrese Halliburton. This is just great positioning and spatial understanding from such a young player. Shoot, guards his age struggle with understanding nail help. But Claxton wasn't done. He stayed stride for stride with Tyrese Halliburton on the drive, shuffling his feet and moving laterally like a guard. Even after slightly biting on Halliburton's pump fake, he recovers nicely and contests the shot from behind. Brooklyn had no problem with switching Claxton onto all-star caliber guard De'Aaron Fox, which just goes to show you the coaching staff's confidence in the 21-year-old big man. Once again, I love the idea of Claxton helping off De'Aaron Fox, a not-so-great three-point shooter, to provide secondary pressure at the nail. It isn't needed because Kyrie Irving does a nice job against Buddy Hield, but still, I like the thinking. If you're wondering why the coaching staff felt so comfortable switching Claxton onto Fox on pick-and-roll sets, well, the dude's incredibly fluid for his size, with a 7'5" wingspan that can erase airspace at a moment's notice. The way he stays in his stance and plays on the balls of his feet is just truly impressive. And staying balanced while turning and backpedaling ever so slightly against De'Aaron Fox, one of the fastest players in the league, in transition is just ridiculous. He's just so good at leveraging that wingspan to his advantage, taking away pocket passes with active hands and generally just stressing out opposing offensive players. Once again, Claxton does a nice job on the switch with Tyrese Halliburton, flipping his stance and avoiding opening up his hips, giving Halliburton nowhere to go. I will say, and this may sound like a little bit of a nitpick, but I do think there's a world in which Claxton should help out Landry Shamet in the post with Richaun Holmes, and trusting that somebody will rotate over to De'Aaron Fox at the 3, who again is not a great three-point shooter. That was probably my only gripe with Claxton's debut performance on defense. There were a couple of moments where I felt like Claxton was neglecting his duties as Brooklyn's rim protector. Oh, and trying to cross somebody over at half court was probably not his best moment in his debut. But I will say this, on the moments where he did protect the basket, boy, he looked good. The guy is so freaking quick and just comes out of nowhere for this block on Richaun Holmes. I lied. If there's one more gripe I do have, it's with his conditioning. Here he gets beat down the floor by Richaun Holmes, but again, he's coming back after not playing basketball for a year, so I assume that this will improve with more time on the floor. All in all, I think we're looking at a very, very special defender, and perhaps Brooklyn's most versatile on the entire roster. I don't usually do hot takes on these videos, but there's an outline of an all-defensive player in here somewhere. When it comes to Claxton's offense, that's where things start to get a little more dicey. On some plays, Claxton was outstanding, while others he just looked a little bit lost. Steve Nash praised Claxton for his abilities in dribble handoff situations, and against the Kings, Nick was as advertised. Here he flips a handoff to James Harden, and then shows off that verticality on the alley-oop from one of the 3 best passers in the league. I'm telling you, for a guy like Nick who likes to cram dunks as much as he does, he's going to love playing next to James Harden. In pick and roll situations, however, that's where Claxton started to look a little more raw. Claxton, I think, wants to set a flare screen for Kyrie Irving, but Irving isn't looking. And this is a situation where I'd much prefer if he just went over and made things easy and set a ball screen for James Harden. What results is a contested step back 3. Again, this is something that will improve over time with more reps, but being an endless source of ball screens was how DeAndre Jordan and Jared Allen became such impact players for the Nets this season. And even here, after Brooklyn's double drag set, which features 2 players setting screens that face the sidelines, is thwarted by Sacramento, resulting in the ball being reset to James Harden up top, there's a very brief window where Claxton sprinting up to Harden to set a ball screen would have made sense. Harden is obviously one of the best isolation players in the league, so this isn't necessarily a bad possession, but still, it's important that Claxton keeps himself involved in the offense. Now on a more positive note, this is just a really good read from Claxton of the situation. After hustling over to set the ball screen for Joe Harris, Claxton notices that Sacramento is switching the screen. A great way to counter that? Simply slip a beat early and fly to the basket. Shouts to Nekias Duncan, because the best way to beat a switch is with a slip. Oddly enough, I actually found Claxton to be a much more comfortable screener away from the ball. Here he nails De'Aaron Fox with a pretty nice pin down screen, giving Joe Harris a breath of fresh air for 3, but he can't connect. Because of his at least average abilities as a playmaking big, the Nets felt comfortable using him in a delay alignment, which is essentially a form of 5-out spacing with the big man up top and 2 players on each side spaced outside the 3-point arc. After the ball gets entered to James Harden in the post, Claxton once again nails De'Aaron Fox with a pin down screen that leaves Fox stumbling, giving Kyrie Irving the wide open mid-range look. Another look at Claxton screening off ball. Brooklyn flows into a double pin down for Landry Shamet, and because Claxton is so slight, he doesn't do much to knock the trailing Tyrese Halliburton off his spot. Because he's so raw, Claxton didn't do much other than set screens on and off the ball on offense. But as he gets in better shape and a little more acclimated, I'm sure there's much more to see from his offensive game. Maybe he'll start to flash that unique post game and growing outside shot. Both of Iman Shumpert and Andre Roberson were recently waived by the Brooklyn Nets and then re-signed to 10-day deals as a money-saving move. So I have no idea how long they're each going to be with the team, but nonetheless, let's start with Andre Roberson. The best way to describe Andre Roberson is that he just knows where to be on defense. Here, he and Tyler Johnson exchange matchups on this Kings handoff, and then watch what happens when the Kings flow into this pick and roll with Marvin Bagley crashing to the hoop. Instead of following his man Daquan Jeffries relocating to that weak side corner on the left, Roberson grabs Marvin Bagley for a brief second while DeAndre Jordan helps Landry Shamet stop ball by double covering Tyrese Halliburton's drive for a moment. This is known as a tag, and it's a form of help defense for pick and roll rollers. Just vet level savvy from Andre Roberson. Again, this is what I mean by he just knows where to be. Roberson reads the play before it happens, batting away the pass to Corey Joseph in the dunker spot. He even climbed the ladder for a brief second to contest this De'Aaron Fox layup at the cup. I thought he fit pretty snugly into Steve Nash's switching defense. He just knew when to help his teammates. A great example of that is here. After Tyler Johnson gets nailed by this Buddy Hield back screen, Roberson notices that his teammate's in trouble and peels away from the play to completely break up this Sacramento Kings alley-oop. Truthfully, I'm not even sure how he even spotted all of this, but man, this guy just has such good defensive instincts. Where I thought Roberson was at his best was as a screen navigator. He just skated over screens with no problem at all, no matter what Sacramento threw at him. In a way, you almost need to have eyes in the back of your head, but especially confidence in your teammates to go under or over screens correctly, while also knowing the opposing team's personnel. For good shooters, you typically want to go over. For bad shooters, you can go under. This last clip is probably my favorite. Notice how Roberson presses his body against Daquan Jeffries to shrink the window of space between Jeffries and Marvin Bagley, who's setting the screen. This allows him to effectively get over that screen without much trouble at all, and it completely blows up Sacramento's attack. Offense will always be the sticking point for Andre Roberson, and after going 0 for 3 from the field with 2 pretty bad misses from 3, that still continues to be the case. Buddy Hield has no fear of rotating over to stop ball, thereby leaving Andre Roberson in the corner, and for good reason. And on this ATO, notice how far Buddy Hield, originally guarding Andre Roberson, sags into the paint. The Kings essentially dare him to shoot, and an air ball in this situation isn't great. If he can do enough of the little things like sealing De'Aaron Fox to give James Harden the free runway to the basket, there's a chance he'll be able to earn a little bit of playing time, but Brooklyn will need to surround him with 3 outside shooters at minimum. As for Iman Shumpert, he only played 6 total minutes against the Kings, and honestly, he kind of was the inverse of Andre Roberson. Right away, he came in and made an impact and made a jumper off an offensive rebound, but on the other side of the floor, the dude just looked kind of slow. Buddy Hield is many things, a speedster is not one of them, so I was a little bit puzzled when Iman Shumpert got blown by on this drive. And then here's the same thing again, with Shumpert guessing wrong as to which direction Halliburton was going, and he just doesn't have the speed to hustle back into the play. Oh, and it also appeared as if he didn't really know the Nets scheme. On this Tyrese Halliburton Daquan Jeffries pick and roll, instead of peeling off onto Daquan Jeffries while Kyrie Irving picks up Halliburton, Shumpert too picks up Halliburton, giving Daquan Jeffries the free run to the basket, and fortunately DeAndre Jordan cleans things up. All in all, outside of the obviously exciting sentimentality of having 3 guys make their returns to NBA action, I found Nicolas Claxton's debut really impressive. I truly believe the guy can swing a playoff game or 2 with his switchability on defense. And he honestly feels like a guy who can take the net ceiling a couple of levels higher with that switchability. Offensively, I'm not sure what we're gonna get. I'm kind of waiting for him to get into shape before I really evaluate that. But all in all, the game against the Kings was a great reminder of why we were all so excited for this kid. As for Andre Roberson, I think there's a chance where his defense can carve him out a couple of minutes here and there, but it really depends on what lineup he's playing in. And then as for Shumpert, because of the nature of his injury, which happened a couple of weeks ago, a left hamstring strain, which can linger a little while, I'm willing to give him a little bit of time to get his feet under him. New faces are always exciting, and it's what keeps the mind moving during slow points of the season. And with that, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe, and go ahead and share this video on Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit. If you're looking for more of my content, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. The link is below. And that's all I've got for you guys today. Peace!